Welcome, everyone.
Bem-vindos todos que chegaram agora para a conferência.
So, yeah, so if anybody has a questions, you can chat or you can show that you have a
Se vocês tiverem alguma pergunta, vocês podem escrever aqui no chat, no bate-papo, ou então também, se vocês quiserem falar diretamente, é só ir lá naquele botão que está escrito reações, e ali vocês podem levantar a mão. E aí a gente vai saber quem quer falar, e aí eu passo a palavra, a gente passa a palavra para vocês, quem quiser falar diretamente.
Okay, but few words about this LED class. So, like I said in the beginning, I started Ashtanga in 1989, so 32 years ago. And there has been many things happening in this 32 years. But maybe the one which is the most interesting is that there has been many changes in this practice already since the first Europeans and Americans started to practice in the 1960s and 70s. The practice has been going through many changes.
Então, ele falou que ele começou a praticar Ashtanga em 1989, já fazem 32 anos que ele pratica, e a prática já passou por muitas mudanças, principalmente depois que muitos os europeus, né, começaram a praticar e ir para a Índia.
So the Vinyasa system, what I'm teaching, like what I did in this LED class, is the last one what I got from Pattabhi Jois, because I wrote 2 books in 2004, 2005. I wrote one book with Pattabhi Jois and Surat, primary series book, and then 2 years later I wrote second book, the second series book, the Vinyasa system. And so the what I'm teaching is from that time. So I don't know exactly. There has been little changes after that with Surat, and there has been different things before that. So this LED class was very much what I learned from Pattabhi Jois between 2004 and 2007 when I was writing my books.
Então, essa aula que ele guiou hoje foi basicamente o que ele aprendeu com o Pattabhi Jois e com o Surat quando ele escreveu os 2 livros dele, o primeiro livro da primeira série, o segundo livro da segunda série, e entre os anos 2004 e 2007 que ele esteve com o Pattabhi Jois nessa época. Então, essa é a aula que ele ensina como era ensinado naquela época, talvez tenha tido algumas mudanças hoje, mas é como era naquela época que ele aprendeu com o Pattabhi Jois.
And we know that since 1930s, the whole sequence has changed a lot. So there's poses which were not there in the 1930s, and there is poses which were added. There was a different order, and so some of that we can see in T. Krishmachary's book Yoga Asana from 1941. Is mentioning the 3 sequences, which are very similar what we are practicing, but there is also, you can see that there's a different order with the poses. There's many same poses, but there's also different order.
Então ele falou que algumas posturas novas entraram na série, algumas posturas a gente também vê no livro do Krishnamacharya, algumas a gente vê no livro do Krishnamacharya, mas também podem ter mudado de ordem, ou estão em ordem diferente.
Yeah, there's the sequences in the book. They are called Yoga Asana Galu. If somebody hasn't find it yet, and you can find it from there's a free PDF if you Google Yoga Asana. I can chat here to everyone. Okay. Yoga Galu. Yogasana Galu. Okay, so if you Google Yogasana Galu, you can find free PDF. You can download it, and you can find the 1941 asana sequences. So you can compare how is the sequence, how it was in 1941 and how it is nowadays. And still in the 1970s, there was an American guy called David Williams who went to Mysore in 1973, and he made a poster with all the poses what he learned, which according to him was every pose what Pattabhi Jois was teaching in the 1970s, and he made a poster. So if you go to davidwilliams.com, you can buy the poster with all the poses what Pattabhi Jois was teaching in the 1970s. And you can also find that there's a different order and there's a different poses. And this was 1970s Ashtanga Yoga in Mysore.
Então ele falou assim que você pode colocar no Google essa palavra que ele colocou aqui no chat, Yogasana Galu, que vai ser a sequência do Ashtanga nos anos 30, 1930, 1940. E aí você pode ver as diferenças da prática de hoje. E nos anos 70, o David Williams foi para Mysore aprender direto com o Pattabhi Jois, e ele também fez um pôster das posturas que ele aprendeu naquela época, na sequência que ele aprendeu. E no site dele tem esse pôster, davidwilliams.com. E é como o Pattabhi Jois ensinava nos anos 70, 1973. E aí dá para ver as diferenças de como a gente pratica hoje.
So that is a big change what happened all the way from that 1930s. But the second one, what I would like to mention is that when T. Krishnamacharya was started to teach in Mysore in 1933, and there was these young boys from Mysore, the Brahmin boys. The system was built for these young boys. So the Ashtanga system was built for the young boys, these Brahmin boys. And they were very young and they were very flexible. And so why we have so many sequences and so difficult poses is because they were not so difficult for these young boys. And so if Krishnamacharya would build the system for us who are not young boys from Mysore, it would maybe look very different.
Então, quando Krishnamacharya começou a ensinar em Mysore, em 1933, ele ensinava para garotos da Brahmanes, né? E esses garotos eram adolescentes e muito flexíveis. Então, quando ele construiu o sistema, era para esses garotos jovens e flexíveis. E então, se hoje a gente vê que essas posturas são difíceis, né, e demandantes, é porque para eles não era difícil, era fácil. Talvez se ele fosse construir o sistema hoje para nós, para que as posturas não são fáceis, teria sido diferente.
For example, nowadays many people practice primary series for many years or maybe the whole life. But that was not the original idea. To practice primary series was not the thing. It was because these young boys practice primary series maybe for 1 month or 2 months. And then they were already doing the second series, and that was also for a few months. So after about 4 months or half a year, most of these young boys did already advanced practice. And that means that when they start to do advanced practice, they do primary only once a week. And the second series also once a week. So the idea that people do primary is not original.
Então, hoje tem as pessoas que fazem a primeira série durante muitos anos, ou às vezes até a vida inteira, mas essa não é a ideia original. Na época, quando ele ensinava, esses meninos faziam a primeira série talvez por alguns poucos meses, depois já passavam para a segunda série, e talvez em 6 meses eles já estavam nas séries avançadas, e faziam a primeira série uma vez por semana e a segunda série uma vez por semana. Então, a ideia de fazer só a primeira série durante muito tempo, na verdade, não é a ideia original.
So one thing what they did to make the primary series a little bit more complete, they added the Urdhva Dhanurasana to the end of the sequence. The Urdhva Dhanurasana originally, if you look 1941, it's the 19th pose from the second series. So the primary series didn't have any backbend, not even one. So they took that 19th pose from the second series and they put it to the end. So that happened somewhere in the 1960s or 70s. And so originally the primary series didn't have backbend. And so now if somebody practices the primary series only and never do second series or other sequences, then the practice is not very complete.
Então, ele falou, por exemplo, o Urdhva Dhanurasana, ele foi colocado na primeira série só nos anos 60, 70, porque antes na primeira série não tinha nenhum backbend. E aí, como as pessoas ficavam bastante tempo na primeira série, acabou adicionando o Urdhva Dhanurasana no final, mas originalmente essa postura era a 19ª postura da segunda série. Então, ele fala que normalmente se você está fazendo só a primeira, mas não faz a segunda, então a prática não é realmente completa.
Yeah. So it was not meant to practice only primary series. That's why there is so many poses, that it makes the practice more complete.
Então, a ideia original não era mesmo fazer a primeira série durante muito tempo, e é por isso que tem tantas posturas, que é para que a série fique mais completa.
So this means that if somebody is doing primary series and never the second series or other sequences, then I recommend for the teachers and for the students to try to build the practice which is complete. This means that we should put more backbend to the practice and a little bit acrobatics and more twisting poses. So that would give the wholeness for the practice, which is not in the primary series.
Então, se tem algumas pessoas que fazem a primeira série por muito tempo, o Petri recomenda que se coloque mais backbends na série, talvez algumas torções também, para complementar o que falta na primeira série e ela ficar mais completa.
Yeah. So if you do only forward bend and almost no back bend at all, then we are stretching the backside of the body too much. There's too much backside of the body stretching. So we don't get the whole benefit from the practice if it's only forward bend.
Ele falou que se a gente passa muito tempo fazendo só posturas de dobrar para frente, a gente fica só esticando a parte posterior do corpo durante muito tempo e aí a gente acaba não tendo o benefício total da prática.
And the only bridge pose doesn't give enough that balance.
E só fazer uma vez lá no final o Urdhva Dhanurasana não equilibra muito bem a prática.
Yes. So this is the difference between when they started to practice in Mysore in 1930s, because there were all these young Brahmins who had this, most of them maybe certain kind of bodies, so it was quite easy. If you look at the pictures, you can see that they could do very, very advanced poses, these young boys. But we are not, most of us, when we start Ashtanga, we are not maybe so young anymore, and we don't have a background in gymnastics or dance or something else. So when we start from almost zero.
Então, ele fala da diferença, né, de quando se começou a prática nos anos 30, desses adolescentes que tinham muita facilidade, e a gente pode ver nas fotos eles fazendo posturas bem avançadas. E a diferença de que nós começamos normalmente a prática de Ashtanga do zero. Algumas pessoas podem ter feito no passado ginástica ou dança, mas a maioria de nós começou do zero e não tão jovem.
Good. The third thing what I want to mention is that when I was writing those books with Pattabhi Jois and Sharat, Pattabhi Jois told that he's teaching exactly what he learned from T. Krishnamacharya. And so there has been people who's been saying that Pattabhi Jois was creating something, he added translutation A and B and many other things. But I believe Pattabhi Jois. I think he was teaching what he learned from Krishnamacharya. There was just the little things what he did that he changed the order of the poses in the primary, second and third series.
Então, o Petri falou que quando ele escreveu os primeiros livros, junto com Pattabhi Jois fala que ensina exatamente como ele aprendeu do Krishnamacharya, e que tem algumas pessoas que dizem que o Pattabhi Jois ele adicionou algumas sequências, como o Surya Namaskar, do que o Krishnamacharya ensinava, mas o Petri acredita que o Pattabhi Jois ensinou exatamente como ele aprendeu, apenas mudando a sequência de algumas posturas nas séries.
So Pattabhi Jois didn't create Ashtanga Yoga. He was channeling the information from Krishnamacharya to the students.
Então, não foi o Pattabhi Jois que criou o Ashtanga Yoga, ele só estava espalhando o que ele aprendeu do Krishnamacharya para os alunos dele.
So that way he was extremely important person because there was nobody else. Because Iyengar started his own style, Iyengar yoga style. There was also Krishnamacharya's children who also teach yoga, but they didn't teach Ashtanga. So Pattabhi was pretty much the only one who was teaching the style what he learned from Krishnamacharya from 1930.
Então, o Pattabhi Jois é realmente uma pessoa muito importante, porque ele foi o único aluno do Krishnamacharya que passou o Ashtanga adiante. Né? O Iyengar criou a própria prática dele, e os filhos do Krishnamacharya ensinam yoga, mas não ensinam Ashtanga. Então, o Pattabhi Jois foi o único a passar adiante o Ashtanga.
Good. So now when 3.5 years ago, when there was this scandal, when Karen Rain came out with the interview and was talking about the Pattabhi Jois sexual abuse case in the 1990s in Mysore, there were some teachers and students who say that they don't want to practice Ashtanga because it was created by Pattabhi Jois, and Pattabhi Jois was sexually abusing some students. So that I understand that people are angry and that abuse happened, but Ashtanga was not created by Pattabhi Jois. So I feel when I practice Ashtanga, I don't feel like it comes from somebody who abused the students, but Ashtanga was already before that. So that way, practicing Ashtanga doesn't have that feeling for me, like that some people say.
Então, ele está comentando sobre quando há 3 anos e meio atrás aconteceu o escândalo que uma ex-aluna do Pattabhi Jois denunciou sobre o abuso sexual, né, nos ajustes, e que depois disso muitas pessoas quiseram parar, né, ou realmente pararam de praticar o Ashtanga porque dizem que essa prática veio de um professor que abusava das alunas. Mas o Petri sente que ele não sente assim, primeiro porque ele sente que não foi o Pattabhi Jois que criou o método, e então ele sente que é o método, a prática fora, né, que ele acredita que ele fala que sim, aconteceram o caso de abuso, ele não nega, mas que há uma coisa maior do que isso, né, a prática em si.
Yes. So when this sexual abuse case came out, of course, Pattabhi Jois was my teacher, and I wrote these books with him and Sharat. So I lost my guru, and it was very painful because I didn't want to think that he could be my guru anymore. But I didn't lose Ashtanga.
Então, o Petri falou que depois que esse caso dos abusos apareceu, e depois dele ter escrito 2 livros com o Pattabhi Jois e com o Charati, ele sente que como que ele perdeu o guru dele. E foi muito doloroso ele poder admitir que isso tenha acontecido e ter ficado sem guru, mas ele não perdeu a prática, não deixou de praticar.
So Ashtanga is still Ashtanga. It's very healing. It's a powerful practice, and I can see the benefits when I teach Ashtanga. I can see the benefits. People really, we have a great community, and there's amazing people. The community after Pattabhi Jois died in 2009, I think a little bit lost. There is not place anymore where everybody would go and feel safe. But there's a little groups, like in Brazil, there's groups and yoga schools and little communities, and more coming. So I think the Ashtanga has a good future. There will be, even there is maybe the bad reputation and little bit bad feeling after that can arrange interview, and also some other people who came out with the same abuse cases. There was an interview where there was a 9 woman who came out with this Pattabhi Jois sexual abuse issue.
Então
But
ele fala que
of course there was much more of them.
ele fala que a prática do Ashtanga continua sendo muito curativa e muito poderosa. Ele consegue perceber isso na prática pessoal dele, com os alunos dele, quando ele ensina. E ele vê que, mesmo assim, existe esse poder de unir as pessoas, de criar comunidades. E ele sente que, depois da morte do Pattabhi Jois em 2009, pode ser que essa comunidade parece que se espalhou um pouco, não tem mais uma única onde todo mundo se junta, mas outras comunidades, como aqui no Brasil, a gente também tem comunidade grande e ao redor do mundo, e que mesmo depois, né, que esse casos de abuso começaram a aparecer, mais pessoas começaram a reportar, mas ele sente que existe um bom futuro para o Ashtanga com essa nossa união e o poder da prática, né, em si.
Okay, Marcus is asking how it was to practice with Pattabhi Jois and to practice with Sharat. Do you see many differences? Style of guidance, personality, fearlessness, accessibility, relation, teacher, student? Thank you.
Petri, sorry, I will just read the question in Portuguese before you answer, or otherwise I will lost. Sorry. So, o Marcos perguntou aqui para o Petri como ele praticou com o Pattabhi Jois e com o Charati, se existem diferenças no estilo de ensinar, na forma de ensinar, no relacionamento professor e aluno entre os dois.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Definitely Pattabhi Jois had more knowledge from studying, being able to study for a longer time. already from the 1920s, end of 1920s. He was studying with Krishnamacharya for quite a long time, and then he was teaching Sanskrit in a college, and so he went through a lot of education which Sarat couldn't go through. So definitely there was more information about the books and Ayurveda and Tantra and benefits of the poses and these kind of things. Pattabhi Jois' teaching style was more playful. We were allowed to do acrobatics and handstands and extra poses. And when Sarat started to have more influence, then he took out all these extras.
Então ele falou que tinha diferença porque primeiro que o Pattabhi Jois teve mais tempo, né, praticando com o Krishnamacharya, começou a praticar em 1920 e ele também era professor de sânscrito, né? Então ele tinha muito mais conhecimento e contato com os textos do Tantra, do Ayurveda, benefícios das posturas. E também ele falou que o Pattabhi Jois era mais tipo brincalhão, assim, quer dizer que ele deixava fazer mais coisas extra durante a prática, fazer parada de mão e tudo. E aí quando o Charati começou a ter mais influência, aí ele meio que começou a cortar esses extras, assim.
Yeah, with Pattabhi Jois, I think there was more fun.
Ele falou que era mais divertido com o Pattabhi Jois.
We were laughing so much in the class.
Que eles riam muito durante as aulas.
Of course, Pattabhi Jois was following older teaching method, which was more authoritative and very hard adjustments.
Mas também que o Pattabhi Jois ele seguia como mais tradicionalmente, né, o jeito de ensinar e era mais autoritário também e os ajustes eram mais fortes.
We know that Krishnamacharya was using a metal bar and he was hitting the students with that metal bar. If they couldn't hold the balance, if they didn't remember the vinyasa, if they couldn't do the pose, he was beating up the students. So this is where it comes from the 1930s. Pattabhi Jois was very soft comparing that, but he was still very hard.
Então, o Krishnamacharya, ele era bem duro. Ele tinha um pau de metal e ele batia nos alunos quando eles não conseguiam segurar o equilíbrio ou se eles erravam a ordem do vinyasa. E aí foi aí que o Pattabhi Jois aprendeu. Então, perto do Krishnamacharya, ele era bem tranquilo, apesar dele ainda ser, como diz, bravo, né? Assim, straight, sei lá. Mas perto do Krishnamacharya ele era tranquilo.
Krishnamacharya was really hard teacher, and I think his students got traumatized by him.
E ele acha que os alunos do Krishnamacharya ficaram traumatizados com ele.
When there was an interview with B.K.'s Iyengar, and they asked what he learned from Krishnamacharya, first he said nothing.
Teve uma entrevista com o Iyengar e... Não, com o Iyengar e perguntaram o que você aprendeu com Krishnamacharya e ele falou nada.
And he said, the second thing he said, I learned discipline.
E a segunda coisa ele falou, eu aprendi disciplina.
But he was not very happy how Krishnamacharya was treating the students.
Mas ele não era muito feliz com o jeito como o Krishnamacharya tratava os alunos dele.
I've been studying now for about 6 years also with A.G. Mohan, A.G. Mohan. And he started with Krishnamacharya in 1971. And he said that Krishnamacharya was a very, very different person in 1971. He was very soft and he was very kind. So he was not hard anymore. He was not beating up the students. But in the 1930s, it was a different style.
O Petri fazem 6 anos que está estudando com um outro professor que praticou com o Krishnamacharya nos anos 70. E ele fala que nessa época ele já era bem mais tranquilo com os alunos. Nos anos 30 ele era realmente bem mais duro. Ele foi mudando também com o tempo.
So Sharat, for me, he's more asana master. He knows the asanas very well. He practiced a long time. He did lots of asanas. He knows the vinyasas and everything about the asana. But he doesn't have the same knowledge what the Pattabhi Jois had.
Então, para ele, o Charati, ele sabe muito dos asanas, dos vinyasas, ele pratica faz muito tempo. E disso ele conhece muito bem, mas tem uma outra parte da prática que o Pattabhi Jois sabia mais.
So Sarat is following the teaching style what he learned when he started to practice about in 1990. About that time, he started to systematically practice Ashtanga. He said that when he started Ashtanga, he already could do poses from the primary and second series. So he didn't start from the beginning. He started from the already like he could do poses from the primary and second series. But he is following more what was the 90s kind of teaching style. And then there's many others, like how Pattabhi Jois was teaching in 1960s and 1970s was very different. So there is a difference between the teaching styles is that Pattabhi Jois had this long history and Sarat came in about in the 1990s. So there is that's why the teaching styles are quite different. The Pattabhi Jois was accepting more variations and there was more space. As when Sarat started to teach, he had more strict teaching style.
Então, o Charati, quando ele começou a realmente praticar sistematicamente e aprender a ensinar, foi nos anos 90, diferente de professores que ensinam hoje que aprenderam nos anos 60 e 70, porque nos anos anteriormente tinha mais espaço para fazer variações e também tinham menos alunos. E nos anos 90 o Pattabhi Jois já estava mais estricto, né, com a prática, porque já tinha muito mais gente praticando também ao mesmo tempo. Por isso que tem uma diferença no estilo, né, de ensino desses professores.
I think there's also a big difference that when we went to Mysore in 90s, there was not so many people, so we could be very close to the guru. As nowadays, if you go to Mysore, there's 500 people, so you just can't be very close with Sarat. So there's a very different connection what we could have when there was like sometimes 30 or 40 people in Mysore, and we could go to Pattabhi Jois' home and we could drink coffee with him and watch TV, and we could just talk with him. Nowadays, it's impossible to do that with Sarat.
E tem uma diferença na relação entre os alunos e o professor, né? Antigamente tinham 30, 40 alunos no Shala, eles podiam ir na casa do Pattabhi Jois, tomar café com ele, assistir televisão com ele. E hoje, com 500 alunos, né, é muito mais difícil se aproximar e ter esse tipo de relação com o Charati.
Elisa is saying that I knew it, I can't stand the primaries anymore.
A Elisa aqui falou, eu não consigo mais fazer a primeira série, não aguento mais fazer a primeira série.
Yeah.
There's also, sorry, but there's also one question. Guacira asked, what's the reason for all that changes in the Ashtanga method during all these years? But yeah.
Well, Pattabhi Jois was calling his yoga school Ashtanga Yoga Nilayam. So Ashtanga Yoga Nilayam, which is the Sanskrit name for that he was doing research. So research means that if he found some other way or better way, he changed the system. So it was never, there was always this evolution, even with Krishnamacharya, it was never same. So there was all the time evolution. There is no original, like how everybody should do it. It's been changing all the time.
Ele falou que, naturalmente, desde o começo, a prática sempre foi evoluindo. E ela sempre vai evoluir e mudar através dos tempos. Não tem um único jeito perfeito e certo como todo mundo deveria fazer. Existe uma evolução através do tempo, que é natural.
So when I finished the second series book in 2007, Pattabhi Jois told me that this is the final sequence, that this is the correct one.
Quando ele terminou de escrever o livro sobre a segunda série, em 2007, o Pattabhi Jois falou para ele, essa é a sequência final, essa é a sequência correta.
And then Eddie Stern told me that after that he still made some changes.
E o Ed Stern falou para ele que depois disso ainda fizeram algumas mudanças. O Pattabhi Jois ainda fez algumas mudanças.
Okay, Bia, you can open your microphone.
Hi, thank you. I have a question about your healing skills, because I saw on YouTube a few videos of interviews with you talking about healing, and I feel that that's a big differential of your style of teaching compared to other teachers. I would like to know how do your healing skills add to your teaching skills?
A Bia perguntou sobre o Petri também ele trabalha com cura, né, energéticas, e aí ela perguntou qual que é, como isso adiciona na prática dele ou diferencia a prática dele.
First, thank you. First is what Elisa said about the primary series. It is possible that if you keep doing this primary series and you don't get enough variations for the practice, that it becomes really boring and you feel like, okay, I just can't do this anymore. So I think what Elisa is feeling is as what many other people also feel. If you do too long time primary series and the teacher doesn't give you anything else, that there is no variations, there is no acrobatics or backbends, it just becomes boring. So that's why I think it's very important for the teachers and students to try to find the sequence which feels more complete and satisfying. What comes up, yeah.
Não, ele estava comentando aqui a questão da Elisa, que ela falou que não aguenta mais fazer a primeira série, e ele falou que realmente, se você fica muito tempo fazendo só a primeira série, é natural que você fique entediado. Então é por isso que ele fala tanto para os alunos quanto professores de colocar, de repente, mais backbends, fazer mais saltos, né? E algumas coisas extras para que a prática não fique entediante.
Yeah, and there doesn't have to be so many different asanas. Like we have in the second series, we have those nice backbend poses in the beginning, like, you know, Salabhasana, Bekasana, Dhanurasana. Just adding few of those poses for people's primary series would completely change the sequence, and it would make the primary series much more healthy.
Ele falou que nem precisa ser muitas posturas a mais, de repente só aquelas primeiras da segunda série, que se você adicionar já vai até tornar a prática mais saudável também.
So about healing, I studied with the traditional healers here in my country, in Finland, and so I studied what is called bone setting. In Mysore, there's also bone setting in India. So that is where you cracking the bones, especially the spine. I also learned some herbal healing, and I learned also energy healing. So especially the energy healing I can use in when I give adjustments. I can release the body, I can release some of the pain. I can make the energy flow in the body if there is some pain and the body is little stuck from somewhere. I can use that energy healing to open some parts. It's not a huge difference, but many times the students feel like, wow, it felt good and it was easier and lighter and body was more flexible. So this way it is possible to use. But I think the main thing in my teaching style is that I want to create a space which is very safe, which people don't feel any fear to come if they are in a, if they cannot do some pose or if they're not in a very good condition, that everybody can come and feel comfortable. And I try to create a space which is very quiet. There is no noise, nobody talks, and people practice, and everybody has their own space and they feel safe. And that is the most healing. It's like a real therapy temple where people can come and practice and feel good. And then there's a community which is helping, and there's a teacher who is helping. So I think that is the main healing in Ashtanga.
Então, sobre as técnicas de cura, ele falou que aprendeu algum tipo de, como osteopatia, né, de mexer exatamente na coluna, tanto no país dele quanto na Índia. Depois ele aprendeu sobre cura com ervas e também curas energéticas. E as energéticas é como ele usa mais quando ele ensina, principalmente, claro, quando ele vai dar ajustes físicos, né, tipo, pessoalmente, e que as pessoas sentem que faz diferença, que pode liberar algumas tensões, aprofundar, mas não é nada muito grande, mas faz diferença sim. Mas aí ele fala que a principal cura é o silêncio que ele cria no ambiente da prática, e ninguém falar, e acolhedor também, que as pessoas não se sintam pressionadas ou com medo ou com vergonha de ir nas aulas, porque não conseguem fechar uma postura, não conseguem fazer uma postura perfeitamente, e que essa é a verdadeira cura, é o poder do silêncio, do acolhimento e da comunidade.
So Marcus is asking again, how it is to get older being an Ashtanga practitioner. Can you compare Petri and his relation to the practice 30 years ago, 10 years ago, and now? Thank you.
O Marcos perguntou qual é a diferença de praticar durante tanto tempo, se ele sente a diferença de quando ele praticava 30 anos atrás e agora.
That is a very, very important question. Yeah, 30 years ago. Well, 30 years ago, I was still quite a beginner. But I would say in the end of the 90s, after practicing about 10 years, 11, 12 years, I was in the top of my Ashtanga practice. So I was doing the third series, and I started to do some fourth. And then my son was born. My first son was born in 98. So the family life, of course, took time and energy, and so that was the furthest I've been in Ashtanga practice. And then I try to keep that condition, keep the practice. And I would say the family life is made the biggest differences, because now with my wife Wambui, we have 4-year-old and 7-year-old, 2 boys, and there has been less time, there has been less energy. Not every time I can practice, so I practice as much as I can, but sometimes it's not every day. So I'm very happy with this. I'm happy that I reached the level what I reached like 20 years ago, and I'm very happy to teach, and I'm very happy also to do a little bit less. It doesn't bother me at all that my practice is not anymore super advanced, but I can still do many things. I can still do lots of acrobatic poses, but my practice is all mixed nowadays. I'm not practicing primary series, second series, third series. I'm mixing everything.
Então, o Petri falou que quando ele começou a praticar Ashtanga, ele começou do zero mesmo. Então, depois de uns 10 anos de prática, mais ou menos, que ele sentiu que estava no ápice da prática dele, e fazendo terceira série, começando a quarta série. E aí, em 98, nasceu o primeiro filho dele, e depois o segundo filho dele. Hoje ele tem um filho de 7 anos, um filho de 4 anos. E depois que os filhos nasceram, a vida da família tomou mais tempo e energia, então ele tenta manter o ritmo mais tranquilo hoje em dia, e ele tem dias que ele não pratica, ele não consegue mais praticar toda semana, todos os dias, mas ele está muito feliz com a prática dele, ele ainda consegue fazer várias posturas assim acrobáticas, e ele mistura um pouco primeira, segunda e terceira série hoje em dia. E ele disse isso, que está muito feliz com a prática dele e muito feliz em ensinar.
So 20 years ago, it was amazing because the body was so flexible and strong, and I felt like I was flying in the practice. And nowadays, I focus more for my own time, space, quietness, meditation. So the physical practice is not so important anymore, but the practice is important. That I can be and do my yoga, and that is the main thing.
Ele falou que 20 anos atrás ele se sentia muito flexível e muito forte, como se ele conseguisse voar. E hoje o mais importante para ele é criar o espaço e o silêncio. Então, a prática física em si não é o mais importante para ele, mas praticar sim, continua sendo muito importante para ele.
Okay, so my family came home. Let's take a last question is here. Yeah.
Olá! Tudo bom?
Olá, Oi! Tudo bom? E você?
Legal.
So, Petri, we have Marcelo with the raised hands, and maybe we can make last one, and then Marcelo talks and we finish. Is okay?
Okay, I can take this. How have you developed your own teaching style? Do you still go Mysore? So if you start from that.
Okay, so this one, Luisa asked if you can. How have you developed your... Então, a Luísa perguntou como que ele desenvolveu esse jeito dele ensinar, se ele ainda vai para Mysore, como ele começou a praticar yoga.
So I was working as a therapist in the 90s. Like I said, what I learned, the traditional healing. I was working as a healer, and but at the same time, when I was practicing Ashtanga, many people got injured from the adjustments and had not just sometimes not even just a little injuries, but really like bad ones that people had to go to the operations, or they had to maybe quit the whole Ashtanga. So slowly I started to think like there's no, like that is not very smart that people practice yoga and get injured. And so slowly I started to change the way, the teaching style, and become very, very gentle and soft, and use those healing techniques in my teaching. So nowadays there is no injuries anymore. Most of the people just feel much better.
Então, ele falou que antes de começar a praticar, ele já trabalhava como terapeuta corporal, e aí, quando ele começou a praticar, ele começou a ver que tinham muitas pessoas com lesões, mesmo que fossem pequenas lesões, mas às vezes precisavam de cirurgia, e ele começou a pensar que não era normal que pessoas praticando yoga tivessem tantas lesões. Então, aí ele começou a mudar o jeito dele ensinar de um jeito mais suave, e hoje em dia ele não vê mais tanta gente com lesões.
So nowadays Ashtanga is really a therapy practice. As before, it was a dangerous, extreme yoga practice.
Então, hoje, o Ashtanga Yoga é uma terapia. E antes ele via como uma prática perigosa até. E extremo.
Like we can say in the 1970s and 80s and 90s, maybe everyone got injured. All the students.
Então, a gente pode dizer que nos anos 70, 80, até 90, praticamente todos os alunos tinham lesões.
That doesn't sound good.
Isso não parece muito bom.
Okay,
So,
the last
one, Marcelo.
Hi, I want to thank you a lot, Petri. I'm frustrated. I couldn't practice today. I've got COVID.
Oh.
So I want to know how playfulness is important part of your teaching, like playfulness, researching. If it's important in your teaching, as you said, as you mentioned, and also in the healing part of it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Hope you get better. How long you had a COVID?
Kiitos. 4 days.
4 days. Okay. You have fever?
I had a bit in the beginning. Now it's all right.
Okay, that's good. You're lucky.
Yes, I know.
My friend who's like around 40 years old, practicing Ashtanga, doing pranayama every day, had a really bad COVID. He was in the hospital for 1 week and 25% of the lungs got damaged.
Shit.
Yeah, it can go that far also.
Yeah, I know.
Even with the people who are younger and in a good condition.
Yeah. I'm a bit scared for my daughter. And she lives with me, and she woke up with a little bit of headache.
Oh yeah. Good luck.
Thanks. Kiitos.
Kiitos. So playfulness. I think every student should have something which is individual, so something what they want to do, which makes the practice their own. There's something what they love to do. Like some people might want to do handstand or Hanumanasana, the split, or some special acrobatics or something. And I think it's very important that everyone who practices has something like which makes the practice their own and comfortable, and give that inspiration, because Ashtanga can become very boring if you just follow exactly what everybody else does. So I recommend people to find their own Ashtanga.
Então, o Marcelo perguntou sobre quando ele falou, né, da prática com o Pattabhi, de que eles se divertiam, como que eles levavam a prática como uma brincadeira, né, como brincar mais na prática. E aí o Petri falou sobre cada um encontrar alguma coisa que gosta de fazer, que tenha a sua cara, para colocar na prática, para que a prática fique mais divertida também, que tenha mais a sua cara, não buscar fazer igual ao que todo mundo faz, porque aí realmente pode ficar entediante a prática. Então, colocar o seu estilo na prática também.
You can always talk with your teacher about, just be honest, say what do you want.
Você pode sempre conversar com o seu professor, professora, né, sendo sincero e falar o que você quer fazer, né, o que você quer.
And the inspiration for the practice should come from inside, not from the teacher. There should be that feeling that I want to practice Ashtanga. I want to do these asanas because it feels good and it's therapeutic and it's healing and it just, you know, makes me feel good and kind of be a better person. So that inspiration should come from inside. So I said that the power for the students and the teacher should have enough confidence to responsibility for the students to do what they kind of feel. It's still Ashtanga, but there has to be some space. There has to be space that the people can also have individual Ashtanga practice.
Então, ele falou sobre a importância da motivação ser interna, de você praticar os asanas porque você se sente bem fazendo eles, porque você sabe que isso te ajuda a ser uma pessoa melhor, e que a inspiração tem que vir de dentro e não de fora, não ser uma imposição. E sorry, Petri, I was muting some microphones here, so I lost the last phrase. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, so about the healing part. Yeah, so I hope everyone can find their own individual Ashtanga practice and fulfill the needs for what they have.
E ele fala que ele espera que todo mundo consiga achar a sua prática de Ashtanga para poder como se preencher com aquilo que você precisa.
Yeah. So the yoga system, even we have this, what we call tradition and all, it has to be flexible. The yoga has to be flexible.
Então esse sistema que a gente segue, ele também tem que ser flexível. O yoga tem que ser flexível.
Good. Thank you so much.
Muito obrigada. Thank you so much, Petri. Wambui, happy to see you. Thank you so much. We have to do more. We will take a break for some, like maybe 1 month to breathe a little bit and thank for the next step. And thank you for helping us with this. It was very important for everybody.
Yeah,
thank you. Muito obrigada a todos.
Marcus, Rochelle. And yeah, I hope to see you again. Keep practicing and hope the situation in Brazil gets better.
Yes. When it gets better, you should come.
Yeah, we are coming.
So, thank you. Muito obrigado a todos, a todas e a todos que participaram, que doaram seu tempo, compartilharam com a gente. É muito legal ver que a gente começou com 40 pessoas e agora a gente tem 50 pessoas, que o pessoal realmente quis entrar para conversar, para a gente se ver. Muito obrigada mesmo pela participação, a Rede Yoga agradece. E com certeza também a iniciativa Mães da Favela agradecem. E além da gente estar aprendendo pra caramba, tá se unindo, se conhecendo, a gente também está ajudando pessoas numa situação de necessidade. E é isso. Que a gente continue aí se unindo para continuar espalhando boas ações.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Muito obrigada.